when people search for stuff online, it's typically because they have a question. And they may not have the same questions that you have when you're putting together this piece of content. So you want to get out there and use the internet to your advantage and find the things that people are asking about this particular topic and answering their specific questions in your content. That's what's going to make your content memorable.
Are you a solopreneur looking to 2 times your revenue to fund your lifestyle and give back? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a regular, thanks for your support. Our guest today is someone who worked as a tax accountant, and he knew he just could not do this for another 20 to 30 years. His wife really encouraged him to look for options, and he tested and tried many of them until he found one that was something that he loved to do, but also was very scalable. He's now got over 400,000 visits to his site every month, and he's looking to at least 2 times his business in the next 12 months. So why listen? One is you'll get a really good insight into what makes great content. The second is how to expand your revenue streams to 2 times your business, and also how to improve your financial literacy. And also at the end, I'll give you my top 3 takeaways. So now what I'll do is hand you over to Logan Allec from Money Done Right. Welcome, Logan Allec from Money Done Right to the Build, Live, Give podcast. Welcome, Logan.
Hi, Paul. It's great to be here.
Look, great to have you. So why don't we kick off with something that your family or friends know about you that we may not?
Well, one interesting thing about my life is in my college years, my junior and senior year of college, I actually worked as an advisor to adults with autism and Down syndrome through a pilot program through my university. And, at first I looked at it as just an opportunity to get my room, board, and food paid for, which they generously provided. But I think that experience helped me to grow a lot in my college years and actually kept me away from, some of that lifestyle that's associated with one's college years and put a good head on my shoulders. So and I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, brilliant. And what were some of the key things you've learned from going through that experience?
I think patience was huge. It's just, people with intellectual disabilities, sometimes, they just need a lot more time to work with and to work through and to deal with them with whatever problems they're having. And as I was, 18, 19, 20 at the time, and just kind of learning those skills, I think really prepared me for life after college in many ways that I think college itself did not. So I'm very grateful for those experiences.
Brilliant. Well, I know you had a fantastic, I think roughly 5 years at EY as an accountant. I'd love to you tell us a little bit about that, but most importantly, what was your transition to running your own business?
Yeah, so I was in the corporate world as a tax accountant for many years, a few years at a smaller firm and 5 years at EY. And, a few years into that business or that job, it became clear to me that I did not want to spend the next 20, 30 years of my life doing this, in a cubicle or office or what have you. So over the years, I was always looking for ways to escape the rat race, so to speak. Yes. I looked at things like real estate and I kind of dabbled in that. I looked for other ways to kind of make money, but eventually I landed on making money online through a blog, and that is now my full-time business. Some of the things that kind of compelled and drove this journey to look for ways to quit the corporate job was just the stress involved just with the job. And also I didn't have much time for family and relationships. And, actually my wife, near the end of my corporate career, she was becoming, just really encouraging me to leave and quit my job because we never saw each other. I had a long commute, worked long hours. Sometimes I would leave before she woke up and be back after she went to sleep. And so kind of this combination of factors just prompted me to quit the corporate world. It's been a little over a year now, and I haven't looked back.
Brilliant. And, how did you end up deciding that the online blog was going to be the right one for you? Because I know that, as you said, you tested a few. How did you know that was going to be the right one for you?
That one seemed to be able to scale faster than other things that I tried. So, real estate, I think it's a great opportunity, and it's something I'm still very interested in. But, unless you have like a lot of cash on hand to really sweep in and buy some amazing deals, it's a long slog to accumulate enough properties to replace one's income and things like that. So, the world of online business and blogging just seemed to be able to scale a lot faster and get me to that income and cash flow level that I needed a lot quicker. And, that was the reality. Within a year of starting my blog, or starting a blog, it had almost replaced my full-time income. And shortly thereafter, I put in my notice to my employer and quit.
Great. And how did that feel? The day you handed it in? Take us to that moment. How did that feel?
Man, it was it was it was so relieving, but then so scary at the same time, because I had never been without a full-time job and that paycheck, and it was a weird feeling. I've never experienced anything like it before, and I'm not sure if I'll experience quite that feeling again. That combination of anticipation and excitement and absolute terror
Yes.
that I would be not be getting a paycheck to my bank account in 4 weeks' time. So it was great, but it was scary. It was definitely scary.
Yeah, and and I know we've got lots of people listening right now in the US, but also all over the world. There's a lot of talk about health and medical insurance in the US. And obviously a lot of employers provide that, and then you're out on your business or you're out on your own. You've got to provide it. Just give us a bit of an insight, because obviously you're the guru with finance, which we'll get to soon. But how did you go through that in making sure that you and your family were protected with this move?
Right. So at the time, my wife was working, and she had insurance through her employer, good insurance through her employer. And so at the time, it was basically just me looking for insurance on my own, being relatively young. I mean, I was in my 20s and relatively healthy. I was able to, just get some high deductible plan on a state insurance exchange. It's called Covered California here in my state. It wasn't an arm and a leg, but then again, there's a very high deductible. So, obviously people who maybe need a higher quality of medical care, they have more doctor's visits, it would be more of a struggle and something that they should maybe carefully consider, maybe a bit more than I had to, just where I was in my life and with my health circumstances. So I was fortunate, I guess. My wife had health insurance. I didn't really need the best care. Yes. So, it was just a couple $100 a month setback. So it wasn't a huge ordeal. It's basically there for a catastrophe, right?
Yeah. Got it.
But that's definitely a huge issue. I mean, in this country, and just for people who want to leave the corporate protection.
Yeah. Look, I'm so blessed, I suppose, here in Australia, but I've just had a kidney transplant and had lots of time in hospital, etc. And here in Australia, that's all covered by Medicare. So for me, it's amazing. Medicare is basically an insurance that everyone has in Australia. It's just deducted off your tax, and it's quite amazing. So I was very, very fortunate in that regard. Yeah, if I had been, I'm assuming if I had been a solopreneur in the US, it would have cost me a lot more than
that would have been pretty that could have maybe ended the whole solopreneur career. I mean, you don't thankfully a lot of these solopreneurs, they're young and they're kind of in the same spot I was, but I have heard of a couple cases where people who had some kind of pre-existing health issues, that they really found themselves in a bind after leaving the corporate world and with that employer provided insurance. So it's definitely something.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that we, I suppose, given my situation, would definitely help people with. And, you talked about this seesaw of, huge excitement and a bit of terror how did it play out? Was it easier or harder than you thought once you finally started your own business?
It was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. I was just so scared that I just got lucky. I think that was just the fear. I thought this is a fluke. It's not going to last. So, these people who are somehow landing on my site from Google and Pinterest and Facebook or wherever, I just thought it was, my fear was that it wouldn't last. But I found that, look, if you're creating awesome content on your website, which is what I do, that's how I make money. I produce content on my website and monetize it through affiliate marketing. If you're creating best on the internet content, you will be rewarded. People will look for that content and people will want to find it and people will find it. So the remedy to my fear and my terror was just to become better at what I do. If I were to slack off and not, produce top quality content, not do my job well, so to speak, people will probably stop coming to the site. So, I dealt with that fear by just giving it my all and just putting all my effort into it and seeking to scale it efficiently.
Great. Well, we'll come back to your secrets on content in a moment when we go through the build section. But who supported you through this journey? And what I mean by support is, have you had any mentors, coaches, been in any masterminds? Like, is there any peers, other solopreneurs that have supported you?
When I first started looking to monetize my personal finance blog, there were other successful personal finance websites that I really looked to. Here in the United States, one of the most well-known one is called NerdWallet. I don't know the owner personally. I mean, it's I think it was valued based on the capital it raised at like $500 million, which is just mind-boggling for literally a website on the internet, right? So
yeah.
He's not the founder. His name is Tim Chen. He's not he didn't directly mentor me or anything, but just listening to him talk on YouTube or, interviews he's given have been a huge inspiration. The Penny Hoarder is another one here in the U.S., another big one. The man who founded, his name is Kyle Taylor. He just started as a personal finance blog and he grew into something huge. So, if I had to pick a couple individuals, it would be them. On a more personal level, there's the FinCon community that we have here. It's basically a community of various financial bloggers and influencers who really support each other and, kind of informal mentorship questions, things like that. So.
Great. Well, look, as I said, the next section is the build section. And when someone says, hey, Logan, what do you do at Money Done Right? Why should I read your blog? How do you answer that?
Well, I tell them that, look, I mean, there's a lot of personal finance information out there, and even some of the stuff that's ranking on page 1 at Google that just isn't accurate. You can tell that people wrote it just, to get some traffic from Google and just because it sounds good, but it's not necessarily the most accurate thing. So, with my background in the finance world, combined with, my desire for teaching and writing and my love of writing and things like that, I think we have something really unique at Money Done Right. We're not just trying to, make money off of our audience. And in fact, we're looking to decrease the number of ads we show on the site here in the near future. But we want to educate and inform. So a lot of financial content out there, it's associated with some brand, like maybe an insurance company or, an investment company. And obviously their main goal is to get you to sign up with them, right? At Money Done Right, our business is content. And, I think that's something that's a differentiator.
Great. And who is your ideal client? Like who, I know you get lots and lots of traffic, 300,000 to 400,000 visits a month. Who is visiting your site? Who are they and what are they looking for?
It's about 39% millennial. Majority is actually female, believe it or not. So, that's just kind of very broad categories, but, not most, but probably, it kind of varies from period to period, but 20-30% are college educated, right? So these are basically young people who are in jobs, they have corporate jobs, and they want to figure out what to do with their money. They're afraid of doing money wrong, and they want to learn how to do it right, hence Money Done Right. So it's there's a younger demographic, and a lot of the stuff that we produce is written with that younger demographic in mind. For example, we write a lot more about student loans and student loan refinancing than we do about, say, estate planning or something like that. So it's definitely a younger crowd in mind, but as the business grew and has grown, the demographic is getting more and more representative of the general population. So we kind of have to shift our content strategy here in the near future to accommodate that.
Great. And, you talked about, great content is the most critical thing. What are your secrets on creating great content?
Well, at this point, it's about finding the right people. So, and I had the wrong people for a little while there. So, when I first started the blog, it was me writing everything. And I put everything I could into the site and the content, making sure it was the best thing online about it. Then when the business started scaling, I had to figure out a way to, okay, I can't personally spend so much time on the content. I have to do other things in the business. I have to hire it out. And, I made the mistake of looking for the best bargain, freelance writers. Mm. And, the site actually suffered as a result of that. Believe it or not, just in terms of page views and revenue and things like that during the time where that was my content strategy. Thankfully, I figured that out after a few months. And now I'm looking for the best and the brightest financial writers out there. We're actually moving away from, a freelancer model and looking to hire full-time writing staff. People who have written great content for other financial sites before to join the team and who have specialized in certain content areas. And I still review every piece of content we publish. So that's there's that quality control aspect. But right at this point, it's just about finding the best people to produce the content.
Great. And a lot of people listening right now are, writing their own content. Just, what are your sort of tips on writing your own content? If you're the person writing it, what are some killer tips you've got for people that are doing that?
You got to, first you got to start with your competition, right? And you got to think about, okay, in personal finance, there's kind of an old joke, right? It's personal finance writing is basically writing the same 27 articles over and over again. I mean, with the kind of the message being, there's nothing new under the sun, and that in terms of fundamentals, and that there may be some truth to that, but it's just how do you present it in a way that is the most gives the reader the best experience when they read it. So a lot of personal finance content out there, it's super dry. It's just kind of blocks of text after paragraph after paragraph. Well, break it up. Use images, use graphs, use tables and charts and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that makes your content memorable, not just a block after block of text. Another thing is to look for what people are asking about this topic. Go on sites like Reddit. Use sites like Answer the Public, which basically gives you questions that people ask about a particular topic. Because, when people search for stuff online, it's typically because they have a question. And they may not have the same questions that you have when you're putting together this piece of content. So you want to get out there and use the internet to your advantage and find, the things that people are asking about this particular topic and answering their specific questions in your content. That's what's going to make your content memorable. So I think right now, our big push is in just getting beyond just the text itself, but also into thinking what's the user experience as they read this piece of content. What kind of visuals do we want to give them to help explain this information? And what are the questions that, someone new to this topic might be asking that, perhaps myself or a writer as something of an expert in this topic may not think of beforehand.
Okay, great. And the name, Money Done Right, I think it's a great domain. How did you come to that?
Well, that was actually a journey because the blog was originally called millennialmoneyclub.com. And 6 months in, I had to rebrand it. There was kind of an issue with another personal finance blog that had trademarked like Millennial and Money with respect to blogs. So that was, that we kind of had a conversation there. I asked some lawyers about it. They said, yeah, I mean, if push came to shove, he would probably win. He should probably rebrand your site. So, that was a little bit devastating. I had to rebrand everything, but, coming out with the name. So I came down to, originally it had to be, a very fanciful name. So I was thinking like Money Dew, Money Peach, money, things like that. Right. But then I thought, you know what, that's kind of weird and confusing. What's the goal of my site? Well, it's to help people do the right thing with their money. So it just became natural after that. I kind of searched for a few variations on, I think I was using Namecheap for my domain registrar, and moneydoneright.com was not a premium domain. It was one of the ones I think I picked it up for 99 cents. And I was like, well, that's it. It's clear, and it expresses exactly what I want to do with the blog, which is teach people how to do money right.
Yeah, and I think that works really well too, because as you said, you're starting to migrate greater than just millennials. So it gives you that ability to do that. So I think, I know it must have been painful at the time, but in hindsight, it sounds like definitely the right thing. And as far as, your revenue growth, for the next 12 months, what's the factor you're looking to, 2 times it, 5 times it? Just give us a bit of insight as to the growth rate you're predicting.
Yeah. So year over year, at first year over year from 2019 to 2018, I thought a 3X or, 4X was in the cards. Now, a little more realistic. I think realistically we can 2X our 2018 revenue in 2019. So,
right. And what are sort of the key focus areas to 2X it?
The clear focus areas for this year?
Yeah.
So it's just expanding those content verticals that we write about to accommodate our increasingly diverse audience. So, like I mentioned before, it was originally very millennial focused. We wrote about student loans and things like that. Now we're going to be writing content in pretty much every area of personal finance that one could think of. We hadn't really, gotten into insurance very much before. Well, now that's going to be a focus. So the goal is to, by the end of 2019, to be viewed as a comprehensive financial resource for people who are looking for financial advice online. So by the end of the year, that's where we want to be. And it's going to take a lot of great content to get there. But, I think we're putting together an awesome team right now to help to get there.
Brilliant. And, what will change in your life for you and maybe, your new son, Hunter, based on growing it 2 times?
Well, I think at that point, right now I invest probably the majority of the profit back into the business, and with the goal of becoming a national financial brand. And when that happens, if we do hit that 2X revenue mark, that's just more money to reinvest back in the business, to maybe get more financial calculators on the site, things like that. I would love to do kind of boots on the ground, like have someone do interviews with just people in major cities about their financial lives and their financial struggles and things like that. So it'll just basically mean that the business is going to get better, and the blog's going to get better, and the content's going to be better, and everything's going to be better. So I'm a big believer in reinvesting as much as you can back in the business early on, and that's what we're trying to do.
Great. And what do you think is going to be your number one challenge in reaching that 2 times?
Yeah, it's fine. It's definitely finding that right talent, and we're definitely on the hunt right now. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of small businesses. It's just finding the right people to do the job.
Yeah, so, and what's working best for you at the moment in finding the right people?
I put up job postings and things like that, but actually just kind of manually looking for people on LinkedIn. That's how I found a couple of recent hires that have really turned out really nicely. So, it's you post a remote job on the internet and you're just going to get hundreds of applications, right? Recently, it's been kind of just manually looking for the right people. Have been what I found. Obviously, that's not a scalable tactic. So going forward, we are going to put more screening questions and things like that in our application process. So, we don't spend hours and hours going through applications that are, not worth it.
Yeah, well, look, one of the things, because we're always hiring for ourselves, but also for a lot of our members, one thing that's worked really well is just a 2-minute video from the applicant. So 2-minute video, and they just answer 6 questions. And that is huge because, within that 2 minutes, if they do it, that's a huge thing because you know that they're really keen to work for you. And the second is you can get to see their personality so quickly. And we've, having a lot better interviews based off that. So that's, I know, something that's worked really well for our members.
That's a great strategy. I might just, I may implement that.
Great. And what for you in driving traffic to your site? What have been some of the key things you've done to actually continue to drive traffic to your site other than killer content?
Well, there's kind of two major traffic sources for most websites, and the first thing is Google. So yeah, you got to write, amazing content, that you and I would consider amazing content, but then you also have to consider that, Google's a machine, and you definitely have to take into account its algorithm when creating your content. And usually, content that's great to people is also content that's great to Google, but not always. So, there's kind of that kind of dilemma there. But then there's also the social media piece. And, when I started the site, social media, and especially Pinterest, actually drove the most, the most traffic to the site. But, as the site has grown and our presence on Google and SEO has grown, we focused more and more on Google. So, yeah.
Great. And as you said, you've, gone through some heartache in developing your team and you're getting much better at that. But, how big's your team? And I'm assuming they're all remote. And, what are some of the lessons you've learned with managing a remote team?
Yeah. So at this point, there are, I would say there's 6 people that I communicate with on a daily or almost daily basis. So we have 2 full-time employees and 4 part-timers. There's a lot of other people who touch the site just at a lower level.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think communication with the team, it's pretty small relatively. So it's pretty easy at this point to just talk to folks in Slack. But I think as the team grows, what you're looking to do this year, that's going to be kind of something to think about.
Great. And I know you said you had a virtual assistant, but what are some of the things that a virtual assistant does for you?
Yeah, so I do have an overseas virtual assistant, and something she does is make sure that she coordinates with the graphic designer, right? So if we have a blog post or a piece of content that we need graphics for, she'll kind of be the liaison between the content writers and the graphic designers to make sure that's done. She works a lot in social media, Pinterest, posting stuff on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. So, it's a lot of lower level tasks, but they're still essential to running the business. And, with her, it's really just about making sure that you've kind of documented everything that you want her to do in a document or something like that, so she can just follow it to the T. Because if you're doing virtual assistants, especially overseas ones, you should expect they're going to, if they're good, they're going to do exactly what you tell them to do, right? And so you got to tell them exactly what to do. And just make sure that you give them detailed instructions and things like that. But the virtual assistant, she was the first person who I brought on to help me out, and it's saved so many hours of that those menial tasks that business owners really shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, spot on. Look, I ran a VA business, my own VA business for 5 years, and I've still got a team all around the world. And I always say to my solopreneurs that there's 3 essentials. You need a phone, you need a computer, and you need a VA. Yeah. And, I'm so glad to hear you've had a brilliant experience by it. And I just think it's essential to running a business these days. So look, before we go into the live section, I'd like to talk about some of the killer content we're posting on LinkedIn. So if you search Build, Live, Give, and then you'll find me as an employee. There's not many of us, but send me a personalized invite to say that you heard both Logan and myself on this podcast, and I would love to connect with you. And then we put out our daily content. So all of the brilliant content that Logan puts on his site, which we'll have all the links to. We also put some great content out for solopreneurs on our LinkedIn. So if you go and do that, that would be fantastic. So now to the live section, Logan. So tell us, some of your daily habits. And I know you've just had a new baby boy Hunter in 3 weeks, so maybe they're a little different at the moment. But go back to the ones that you were doing before Hunter, and tell us what are the things that help you be really successful.
Man, I think just, it's kind of cliche, but just being active. I mean, I think it's so easy as a business owner and, hustler, entrepreneur to just want to just, work and, maximize your productivity during the day and all that. But the reality is, like, you got to take time to, to exercise. And that's something I neglected for a long time, especially when I was in the corporate world, because I just didn't have much time to exercise. So, but since I quit my corporate job, I took up basketball. There's a gym less than half a mile from our house with a big basketball court. And, now I have the freedom to just go there in the middle of the day and shoot hoops with the high school kids who are there, right? Who usually run circles around me, but, it's just a way to just relieve stress, and I come back refreshed, ready to hit the job. And also limiting, because I'm on the computer so much, just like most people are in their business, just limiting my use of electronics and things like that when I'm not working. So, things like television and cell phones and things like that, and just trying to connect with the real world. And, obviously the online world, it's part of the real world, but by the real world, I mean, things that, you can touch and, and see and smell. So, that's something I've definitely been more mindful of recently. And I think it's helped me keep a clear head in my business. So,
yeah, that's brilliant advice. And on average, how many hours a week would you work?
It definitely depends on the week, but I try to cap myself out at 50, maybe 60 if there's a lot of stuff to get done. But then, there's other weeks where my wife and I want to do a lot of things together, and, it'll be a lot less than that. But, ideally, 50-ish hours a week is what I shoot for, and try to limit myself to that.
Great. And, Caroline's going to be listening now, your beautiful wife. So what would you like to say to her about the support she's given you through this journey?
Caroline, just thank you so much for being really supportive of my journey of quitting my job and taking on this crazy journey of being a full-time blogger. You were just so essential to that, because you were the one who really encouraged me to quit my job, precisely because you wanted to see me more. So thank you. And I love you, and I appreciate your support.
Well, the next section is the give section. And, what's a charity or a community that you're passionate about? I know you mentioned FinCom before, but, why are you so passionate about that?
Well, financial literacy, it's so lacking today. I mean, and I'm talking, throughout the socioeconomic spectrum. Like, so many of my peers who have quote unquote good jobs and they make good money, they don't know what to do with their money, right? They go invest in Bitcoin or something like that. You know what I mean? Before they even, are kind of doing the fundamentals of, building a portfolio and building wealth. So, there's those types of people aren't financially literate. And then obviously people at, very low income levels are not financially literate. And, they can just get in this cycle of debt and spending and things like that. So, it's my passion. And part of that was because it was kind of my profession early on, but because money just touches basically every aspect of our lives. And, it's very difficult to have a full, and, it's hard to have a happy life if your finances are a mess. And, so I view what I'm doing, and I view as what the financial community, the FinCon community at large is doing as really helping people live happier lives. Because financial stress, it's, it can be debilitating, and it can be a vicious cycle of that. Just people just dig deeper and deeper into a hole, and, decades go by, and, they're still not out of it, and they still, they aren't living life to the fullest because of money. So if I can play some small part in helping people, helping my readers overcome that, then I'm happy.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And look, I suppose for me, Build, Live, Give is about, building a great business to fund your lifestyle and be wise with how you spend your money to live that great lifestyle and then give back. So very aligned to what you do. And the next section and the last section is the action section. So what I'd love for you to do is I'll give you a question and you just give a rapid fire response. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
I would say one thing that helped me was just only touch an email once. Don't let it sit there and then you're going to check it, a bunch of times. Just when you get it, just answer it or delete it. Just be done with it. Another thing is to delegate. Find people on your team. Find people out there to delegate the tasks that they can do, so you can focus on what only you can do. For example, only I could be on this podcast right now talking about the business I started. That's something only I can do. Someone else can do the Facebook post this week. So do what only you can do and delegate the rest. Third one is value your sleep. If you're tired, go to sleep. I think that's something that, sometimes we take for granted as entrepreneurs. I know in the corporate world, I had to pull all-nighters sometimes because a client needed something done. Now, I can sleep whenever I want, and I take advantage of that when I'm tired. And I think your productivity will thank you for it. So,
great. And what tech could you, not live without, or be difficult to run your business without?
Well, Slack for one, just to communicate with my team. Although we're relatively small at this point, it's just a lot easier than using email. Also Todoist, which is my go-to to-do list app. And then we manage our blog content in Asana, which is a workflow management software.
Brilliant. And what's the best source of new ideas for you to, continually improve your business?
I think it's just listening to podcasts like this, listening to YouTube videos from other entrepreneurs. And it's just, business, there's so many things to learn in business. And, I've figured things out that maybe someone else hasn't, but on the flip side, they've figured out things and ways to scale and systematize their business that I haven't. So I think it's just constantly listening to other business owners talk about their business. And that's just, that's where it comes from. It's learning from others, really. And some of that, and most of that that I do is through podcasts and YouTube and things like that. But then there's also a local entrepreneur group here in town that I'm a part of, and that's been super helpful as well.
Great. And is that like a mastermind?
It's not so much. It's more of a, every week, someone presents about their business to the group, and, they ask questions about it, and then there's kind of a period of networking afterwards. So it's not so much a mastermind as it is kind of a networking opportunity / get the publicity opportunity.
Yeah, great. Brilliant. And I'll save my biggest question to last, but what's the impact that you want to leave on the world?
And I want to help as many people as I can live happier lives by getting their finances in order. Kind of like I alluded to earlier, financial stress can debilitate one's life and just cause them not to enjoy life like as they should. And if I can be a part of helping people be happier by taking control of their money, I will feel like I have fulfilled my mission in the world.
Brilliant. Love it. And, I'll have all the links to everything mentioned in the show notes, but I really encourage everyone to go onto the moneydoneright.com website. I've been following it. I'm loving Logan's content. And, I think it's really important that if you're building your own business, that you actually make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk by having all of your eggs in one basket. So making sure that you've got other asset classes that are always there making you money other than your own business, because your own business just funds those different asset classes. And I know Logan's got some brilliant tips on how to do that. So, Logan, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom today on the podcast.
Of course, Paul. It was great being here.
All right, brilliant. Well, have a great day.
You too.
So I really enjoyed that podcast with Logan. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And, Build, Live, Give is about that live component and funding that lifestyle. So my 3 key takeouts was hire the right people. I think he really honed in on that, and it's his biggest struggle, and that's the biggest thing we normally all deal with. Second is have a brand that can expand. So we had an unfortunate situation that now has turned out into something that is much better than being too niched. And the third is money reduces stress in your life. So, I know I've experienced that myself, and a lot of our solopreneurs experience that. So you can get all the links in the show notes. Just go to buildlivegive.com/podcast. If you would love to be a guest on the show, we'd love to find out if you're the right fit, and it most importantly adds value to you. So just email support@buildlivegive.com, and please take action to build your business, to fund your lifestyle, and to give back.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.